Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Well, welcome back, everybody. It is 7:07 here on News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We are making sense of the news. A good Thursday morning to one and all. By the way, I got to apologize if I've been a little distracted. The feed is out there right now. The SpaceX is doing the first private extravehicular activity, the Spacewalk. We're going to talk about this in the next segment, but we've been watching it here in the studio. I'm Andrew Langer, in for Larry O'Connor. That's Mercy Schlapp over there. Hello, Mercy. Mercy's working on some. Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. Good.
Good.
So,
it's
listen,
7 o'clock. I can't believe it already.
I know. Time is flying by. We got Susan Crabtree joining us from Real Clear Politics. She's doing exceptional work for them. She's got a book out called Fool's Gold, The Radicals, Con Artists and Traitors Who Threaten Us All. CPAC is doing a film premiere tonight, the latest installment in God's Not Dead. Michael Scott and David A.R. White from that effort. And Kat Timpf joining us in the next hour as well. She's got a book out. Joining us right now, former governor of Virginia, Jim Gilmore, also ambassador to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. Governor, actually, before we go down this road of talking about 9/11, I want to actually get your reaction to something that was in the debate the other night, as both President Trump and Vice President Harris were talking about Europe and how our European allies view us. What is it? Is it more important to be liked or to be respected among our allies in Europe? What are your thoughts here?
Well, when I was United States ambassador, and I was there as the Trump ambassador to Europe, I thought my job was to work with our allies and to let them know that American leadership was solid. And, President Trump obviously is a very strong personality and a strong figure. And we had a lot of credibility while I was there. I can report to your listeners that the ambassadors from all the European countries looked to the United States for leadership. There was a lot of talk about how people didn't like President Trump or didn't like America. That was not my experience in Vienna. I thought that the American leadership was respected, liked, and needed, and I continue to feel that way.
I think there's a sense, Kamala Harris was so critical of Donald Trump. She was, even during that debate, able to turn around the answer on Afghanistan, blaming Donald Trump for the debacle of the Afghanistan withdrawal, saying, well, he was negotiating with the terrorists. To me, listening to it, and I remember being there when this was all happening at the White House, it was one lie after the other. How can people trust? Even our military, how can they trust Kamala Harris as our commander-in-chief?
Well, I think the real issue there is the fact that she's flip-flopped on all of her issues and is now trying to sell that to the American people. Look, my message, well, first of all, the President Biden and Vice President Harris absolutely own the debacle in Afghanistan. They are the ones that made the decisions on how to handle it. The report I've got is that there was a cabinet meeting and the old guy, Biden, just said, no, we're going to do it this way, despite the advice of everybody around him, because I think he wanted to project that he was president, and as a result, they screwed up. They made a terrible decision. It cost people's lives, and it's had geopolitical consequences also, Mercy. I think that we need to remember that was a message that was sent across the world, that the U.S. was prepared to abandon its friends. Then President Biden also then enabled the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which actually enabled the Russians to do what they were doing. And then finally held a press conference, which I saw with my own eyes, in which he said, well, a little incursion into Ukraine might be okay. And that was obviously a green light for the Putin invasion of Ukraine. They are responsible for the foreign policy debacle that's going on in the country today. And I believe that people are going to hold them accountable in November.
I think you're right, Governor. We're talking with Governor Jim Gilmore, also former ambassador under the Trump administration. And let's talk about this, because Virginia was very much under threat on 9/11, 2001, the September 11th attacks. Folks thought that Virginia was attacked. What am I saying? Of course, the Pentagon was hit. What are your recollections from that day and moving forward to the days after?
Well, Andrew, I had actually been chairing the National Commission on Terrorism for 3 years up until that time. And we issued reports. Your listeners can view those on the RAND Corporation, rand.org. And if you put in Gilmore Commission, you can see those reports. But listen, I was actually in Manhattan the day before on a political trip and managed to get back, and I was in the mansion when the attack occurred in New York. I remember it specifically. My job that day was to try to reassure the people of Virginia, because the attack did occur in Virginia. The Pentagon is in Virginia. The incident commanders were the fire department from the Northern Virginia Fire Department. The Pentagon was in flames. I visited the hospitals right after that and got the briefing basically from the victims. 3,000 people were killed in the United States that day, and it had major geopolitical consequences. But we can't remember the human cost of 3,000 families snuffed out as a result of that brutal crime. A crime, Andrew.
Can I ask you a quick question, Governor? Virginia politics. We've seen, obviously, Governor Glenn Youngkin, very effective, obviously incredibly likable in Virginia, has done a very good job. We're looking at the presidential polls. I know at one point when President Biden was still the nominee, those numbers were really tight. Now it looks like Harris is up by 50%, Trump 42%. I mean, do you view Virginia as a swing state? Is it in any way gettable? What is it going to take for it really to flip and become Republican?
Well, look, Virginia has changed a lot, Mercy, and I view Virginia at this point as a blue state. And I think that the vote in Northern Virginia, right there in your listening area, is very powerful. But look, what can change and what did change in the Youngkin campaign is an issue. If the people of Northern Virginia are affected by the way that the things are going in their day-to-day lives, they're perfectly capable of turning around and voting Republican in order to try to fix it. That's what happened in the Youngkin campaign with the school issue. And I believe that could happen now, because, people that are going to the grocery store in Northern Virginia are seeing the same prices they are in Richmond and Norfolk. And the inflation is deliberate. It was caused deliberately by the high spending in the beginning of the Biden administration. And now they're trying to evade the accountability for it. And so I think that there's still time for these issues to come up. And Mercy, there's one more issue. This effort to swing people's belief as to the accountability and responsibility for all these things, and the change in flip-flops on everything from energy independence to everything else that's going on with Harris raises a second issue, and that's the issue of credibility. Yeah. If she's trying to fool the voters, really, do you really want that person to be president?
No, I think you're absolutely correct, Governor. Listen, unfortunately, we have to leave it there. Thank you so very much, and Godspeed to you, good sir.
My pleasure to be talking to your listeners in Northern Virginia.
Take care. That was Governor Jim Gilmore, former ambassador to the Organization for Cooperation and Security in Europe and former governor of Virginia. Right now it's 7:15 a.m. We'll continue in just a moment, but first,
traffic and weather brought to you by Hadid Carpet Cleaning.
Listen, as I said when we started, this is all mesmerizing to me. And those of you who don't know me, I mean, you've heard producer Heather is a space junkie as I am. I am fascinated by this, as I have been since I was a kid. And I'm not even sure when it was sort of the first time I saw it. But you had those images of Ed White doing the first spacewalk in the '60s. Mercy, were you ever a space buff? Was this your thing? Or?
Do I look like a space buff?
No, you don't. That's why. But on the other hand,
I'm from Miami. I guess we got Cape Canaveral.
Right. You never made that trip up to Cape Kennedy, Cape Canaveral?
I haven't. It's really on my to-do list. I guess.
Gotta go.
It's really not on my to-do list. Have you done it?
Absolutely. I've never listened. I wanted to go to space camp desperately when I was a kid, and of course I didn't.
I can totally see
actually,
that.
True story. Insanely jealous of my wife, because my wife went to high school near the NASA Langley Research Center down in Hampton, Virginia, and did a small sort of mini space camp program. And there's this great picture of her when she was in high school wearing a spacesuit, which is just amazing.
I'm fascinated by it, but the idea those two people are stuck in space freaks me out. I can't.
I get it.
It's too much.
So
you know what I mean?
But today is a momentous day, because at some point in time, government-run, government-sponsored space exploration will give way to private space exploration. A huge step, literally, in a very literal sense, taken today, where two of the SpaceX astronauts are doing the first private spacewalk. In fact, it's going on right now. Here is a sound of the SpaceX stream as they were preparing for it. Michael, let's play cut number 16, please.
I would say the hands-free demonstration is very comparable to the trainer in terms of the foot restraint.
SpaceX copies.
It's a brave new world out there. Now, I will say the first EVA, the first spacewalk that happened, we can even end it there, Michael. The first spacewalk that happened was a little bit more compelling to watch because you could actually see the Earth behind the astronaut.
Wow.
When the second one went out, it's unbelievable. I mean, Mercy, you see these pictures here. Anyway, go ahead, please.
You know what's unbelievable is that you have the billionaire tech CEO, Jared Isaacman. I mean, he's probably like the first billionaire in space, I think, other than, I mean, it's pretty remarkable.
You know
frankly.
something? I thank you for pointing that out to me. I didn't realize that Jared Isaacman was this billionaire
the billionaires in space. That's like
wow.
crazy.
Well,
exactly.
You know, it's funny because I was telling Heather this story. A guy I went to high school with was on the Blue Origin flight up to space with William Shatner.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah,
really?
and I wound up interviewing him a couple of weeks later, and he wound up passing. It was a very sad, tragic story, but he got his dream.
Did?
Yeah, it's a crazy story. He went up into space, came back. It was a moving experience for him, and he was a private pilot, and he wound up crashing his plane a couple of weeks later.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm serious.
That's horrible.
But the point is, he had realized his dream, and we had this very interesting conversation about having he wanted to do this when he was a kid. He was not going to ever join NASA, right? He was, was not somebody, but the fact that he was able to sort of go down this road, have the experience with William Shatner was amazing to him. But you go up and you come back a changed person. So I'm actually really curious as to, I would love to hear from Jared Isaacman. Right, you hear. I'm sorry. Sort of as I digress.
Well, maybe you
Sarah
bring bad
Gillis.
luck to people, Andrew.
No,
no,
right. Oh, no, they shouldn't do interviews with me. Absolutely no. I think that's very true.
Although it sounds like his mission was completed on Earth and God needed him in heaven. That's what I'm
here's
thinking.
my point in all of this, though, is that I would love to find out from Jared Isaacman if he has the same kind of transformative experience that others have had doing this. Right? You could get it with the engineers and the folks who are going to be the professional astronauts. But it's happening. It's been happening right now. The videos will be out there. Listen, we got so much more to get to right now. It's 7:21 here on W. Got this from listener Bridget. She writes, Andrew, you can go to adult space camp in Huntsville. That is just amazing to me. Tons of fun, she says. I can only imagine what it is. And Heather put this up, thankfully, in our show prep here. An adventure for the whole family. The whole family can enjoy. Parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles are all invited to bring your future astronaut, engineer, or scientist and explore everything Space Camp has to offer. I mean, that is amazing. A 3-day family camp includes on-site overnight accommodations, all meals, activities, launch on simulated missions. I mean, that is just incredible to me. I would I would love absolutely love to go and do this at some point. I am sure train like an astronaut. See, this is where they lose me though, because I know with my stomach, if I went on the multi-access trainer and the 1/6 gravity chair, Mercy, would you bring your kids to space camp?
Yeah, except my kids, they are not that science oriented.
Yeah.
They're more like arts and theater and like drama. I mean, can't you just picture that with the Schlapp children?
Yes.
So yeah, they're not quite into the whole science thing.
Sure.
But I do have friends that work at NASA and they love it and it's fabulous. And then whenever they talk about these unidentified objects, it's always like kind of like one of my favorite things, conversations of do aliens and UFOs exist,
Oh, well, listen, we've got all that going. Listen, we've got more to come. This is O'Connor and Company on WMAL.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It is 7:37 on News Talk 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news. Good Thursday morning to one and all. Very excited for the show. We got there's a film premiere tonight, isn't there, Mercy? Film premiere
There
in
is
DC.
a film, tonight. We at the Capitol building, which will be very interesting. It's God's Not Dead and God We Trust. There was a movie premiere that CPAC hosted in Dallas last week. Yeah, it is fun, and it really is about inspiring Christian voters, people of faith, to go out and vote.
We're gonna tease this up. We're gonna tease this up in a minute, but we got Michael Scott and David A.R. White from the film joining us in the next hour. I also have Kat Timpf joining us today. That lovely voice you heard was Mercedes Schlapp. So glad I can join her. I'm Andrew Langer in for Larry O'Connor today, and I got to tell you, if you are not reading Susan Crabtree's writing at Real Clear Politics, you are missing out. Some of the most insightful, in-depth analyses as to what's going on in the world. She's got a new book out, Fool's Gold, Radicals, our forthcoming book. It's coming out, Fool's Gold, The Radicals, Con Artists, and Traitors Who Killed the California Dream and Now Threaten Us All. She is a native Californian. That's actually how she and I bonded. We talked just years ago, started talking about growing up in California. But, Susan, you're doing this exceptional work on the Secret Service and what's happening there. We now know that the Assistant Director, Mike Platty, is being pressed into retirement. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I found that some of this reporting was a little bit curious. I had heard last week that Mike Platty, he is the person in charge of protective operations. And what that means is that he was the one on all of the denials to President Trump. He had to sign off on those.
Wow.
Of security assets dating back 2 years. They were very reluctant to admit that to us. In fact, they told all the reporters that were reporting that there were denials of security assets in the 48 hours after the assassination attempt. They just shot us down. That's not true. In fact, we increased assets because of an Iranian threat this week to the Butler rally. Well, that was very specific. Yes, they had increased assets for that particular rally because of a very tangible, very real, very, we know now in granular detail, thanks to Senator Grassley, how real that threat was, how the plotting of the assassination attempt. So that was an anomaly. This Mike Platty was the one who signed off on denials stretching back 2 years, denials for more assets to Mar-a-Lago, until the Trump detail, those people that are assigned directly to him to protect him and his residences, put up a big fight on that, and they got the counter snipers for that Butler rally.
I got to ask you, Susan, in addition to what we're hearing about Mike Platty, there's word, and you've seen some of these. You've spoken to some of these rank and file special agents basically saying that the acting U.S. Secret Service Director, Ron Roy, he is not basically not very well respected by these agents. Do you think there'll eventually be a change there? And also, Melania Trump came out with her video asking questions about this assassination attempt. Is a Secret Service answering to that?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say that Mike Platty is, from what I understand, that this retirement was planned, and he is not the bad guy in the situation. From what numerous agents I've talked to, that he was being made to do that, to deny the security assets by Ron Rowe and Cheadle, of course, when she was director, and also another man named who is up in the higher echelons, named Vince Titoni. So he is being made to be the fall guy. But yes, I think Ron Rowe was Cheadle's right-hand man. She was his hand-selected deputy, and he was in on all of these decisions. So why should he be selected to be the acting director? Mm-hmm. It's beyond comprehension.
Well, remember,
it was a decision
Susan,
made by Mayorkas.
Remember, Susan, when they say we have change moving forward, it really means just more of the same thing. I mean, that's the code where we are today, isn't it?
Well, of course, they provided more assets to their protectees, including Trump. Trump can get anything he wants, but I have been looking at this at a granular level, and when you talk about Melania Trump's video that she released this week, I have some of the same questions Melania does. You have this very real Iranian threat that we've known about for years since it came out. Since Donald Trump and his security team, led by John Bolton at the time, actually, no, it wasn't John Bolton. Sorry, I think it was John Bolton. Sorry, I don't know the timing.
Don't worry about it.
They decided that they were going to, kill this Iranian general who is the right-hand man to Khomeini. He's the basically head of the Quds Force. They killed him on January 3rd, 2020. So we know that the threat has existed against in terms of Iran wanting to assassinate Donald Trump and his national security team since every day after that killing. So the problem, I don't know if you all have read, and I would press you, please do read what Senator Grassley released last week. It was a detailed, granular explanation of it's their interrogation of the man that they arrested the day before the Butler rally. His name is Asif Merchant, who's a Pakistani citizen who had spent time 2 weeks in Iran with his handlers in Iran in a safe house, plotting the attempt against Donald Trump. I mean, it's so specific.
It is
so specific.
Crazy. Susan, we have to leave it there real quick before I let you go. When does the book come out?
The book comes out in the spring.
Okay.
I wish it would come out earlier, but please, it's called Fool's Gold. It's on Amazon. You can get your advanced copy. And obviously it's incredibly relevant right now. We're dealing with the fallout from California's policies, and Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom and Nancy Pelosi were instrumental in all of these policies.
We're going to talk to you before then, but listen, good luck with that. Thank you so much for the reporting that you're doing.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
That's Susan Crabtree. She writes for Real Clear Politics. Go and check it out. We got more coming up at 7:44 on WMAL. You talk about identitarian politics. Tall energy now is what we're talking about here, Mercy. This is fascinating to me. You know what was missing from the debate the other night? I found it striking. I mean, Donald Trump brought it up, but you would think, I mentioned this yesterday, you would think that the moderators might say, something, it's been, Mr. President, since the last time you did a presidential debate, we had a stunning event. You got shot at. You got shot.
Yes.
How did this change your life? Did it change your life? But that was not asked. He was not asked at all. Donald Trump brought it up, which is just insane that we're there. Melania Trump is getting more involved in politics now, Mercy. And this is it talks about what she was going through when that assassination attempt happens. And then here, let's go ahead and play cut number 19 to hear this.
The attempt to end my husband's life was a horrible, distressing experience. Now, the silence around it feels heavy. I can't help but wonder, why didn't law enforcement officials arrest the shooter before the speech? There is definitely more to this story, and we need to uncover the truth.
Right, and that's absolutely true. And yet, so now we got this. Don Lemon went on TikTok, rolling his eyes and scoffing the entire time. I mean, what a jerk! I mean, this is. I use the term insane far too often, but this is where we are.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to make a statement that some will think it's insane, but there are Democrats who want Donald Trump dead. There's no question. You've seen these professors that have come out, these leftists basically saying, oh, the bullet, it missed Donald Trump. I mean, it is insane what we're dealing with in terms of how Donald Trump is being treated, demonized. And look, I'll tell you, Melania Trump is not one to be very vocal. She's very careful when she goes out and speaks in public. So, and I do think that this assassination attempt, it did absolutely rattled the family.
Sure.
And it is her husband. And she has every right. And I think it's critically important to say, hey, We're not talking about the assassination attempt. We're not getting answers. The Secret Service is in hiding. They have failed President Trump time and time again. And the reality is these assassination attempts, they will continue. And it's very, very concerning.
Right. And when you create a situation in which you've made it really clear that to the left, right, that violence is speech, and their violence is a form of speech, and for speech is a form of violence on the part of the right. They've created the conditions where these things can happen. I mean, that's the astounding thing here. But when you get down to it, with this situation with the Don Lemons of the world going after this and scoffing at it, that is patently unhelpful to the overall discourse here. To mock them for doing this is a sad place for them to be. What did he say? Throughout the Lemons post, he was seen rolling his eyes, shaking his. Oh, let's go here. Of course, there is history between Don Lemon and Donald Trump. Here is President Trump talking about Don Lemon. Let's play cut number 20.
So I watched this guy. He's terrible, not
Don
smart.
Lemon.
He's not a smart person at all.
And that's sort of
He's not a smart person. He's not.
No.
He's not. That's why he's gotten, CNN let him go. I mean, the guy is a scumbag. Let's be honest.
And this is how he is trafficking in this, is to mock the wife of the person who was shot. Oh, this is where I was going to go real quick, because to get to your point, Mercy, about the way the left was viewing this, when this happened, when the first report came out, I was with folks who were very left-leaning, I will say family members. And
you have family members that are left-leaning?
Oh,
That's
it's a whole
shocking.
it's a whole thing.
Oh, I can't wait to hear.
Oh yeah. So the point is, my wife mentions as we're getting up from dinner that Trump stumbled on the stage, and I'm thinking, why are we inviting this? Because I know that, and then all I'm going to hear is how Trump is incompetent, Trump is this, Trump is that, he's too old, he's enfeebled, blah blah blah. And then we get the reports that Trump was shot, at which point the narrative from these folks we were having dinner with was, oh, well, Trump is now just going to milk this for all it's worth. And it's like, something? The man was shot. Why don't we take time to sort of think about what that means? It's 7:53 here on O'Connor and Company, WMAL.